good morning.
Good morning.
All right, we're officially convened. Just put this back. All right, agenda. First thing, we have no guests today, do we? Do we have any guests? Oh, we do have a guest. I'm sorry. We have a tradition in TMG Dayton, the Mac Group Dayton, called the welcome. So what I would ask you to do is to stand up, introduce yourself to the large crowd we have here today, and tell them what you use computers to do and what you would like to be able to use computers to do.
We have 12 more
that includes tablets, phones, any sort of computing device.
Bill, we have 12 online too, so there's...
And we have 12 on, okay.
Okay, then I have to stand.
You don't have to stand, you
Thank
can
you.
just speak loudly if you wish.
I'm Jeanette Duncan, his better half, and I am computer illiterate. I know how to turn it on, sometimes with help. I play games on the computer, and I read email and correspond that way, and that's about it.
Is there anything you want to learn how to do?
Well, yeah, I'd like to learn a little more about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But just
Just a little.
Okay,
Mhm.
and that's good too. That's
She has an
fine.
iPhone too.
Oh, she has an iPhone too.
That's why I'm here today.
Okay. All right, so the next item would be then news items. Apple had their Worldwide Developer Conference. It was just last Monday, Tuesday this week.
All week.
All week, well, yeah, all week, but
Keynote was
the
Monday.
keynote. Well, I've only been to one, and that was a long time ago. So does anyone who's following what they announced other than the new operating? I'm going to say let's bail on doing WWDC, because I think for most people, they don't really care about the new software technologies.
Probably the most interesting thing on the software side is they completely redid FaceTime. FaceTime is going to get a whole bunch of new features this fall.
Oh, and it's coming to Windows 10.
It's coming to Windows. You can send a link to invite people instead of calling them.
Yeah.
You can send them a link and they'll be invited. A very business-like thing,
Mhm.
but it's going to be cool.
So it's not going to be Apple devices only. Did they say whether they were?
It's Apple devices only as far as initiating a call.
Okay.
You can invite people to join your call that are on Windows or Android, but
Yeah.
they can't initiate a FaceTime call.
Okay, got it. Anything else of note that you would?
You'll also be able to share, if you're watching a video like on Disney, you can have a friend watch it with you and you'll be synchronized so you're seeing it at the same time. Things like that, so you'll be able to share things. And then they got this cool new feature on the iPhone.
Yeah.
If you see a picture of something, you take a picture, like it's got a phone number in it.
Mm-hmm.
You just take a picture of it, then you punch it and you can dial the phone number right from the picture.
Oh, so it's doing optical
It's on
character
OCR.
recognition.
Or text too, you can grab the text, the addresses or whatever, and just click them and do things with them. It's really cool. I've tried it.
Anything else you can think of that?
Lots, but I'm not going to go through all of it. Just
Okay.
those are two really cool things.
And so while they're there, so this is a Worldwide Developer Conference is when they get people that write programs to come to their workshops and they show them the next generation of the operating systems, what I call applesauce. So you have one operating system that's for the Macintoshes, you have another that's for the iPhones, you have another that's for the tablets that are called iPads, and you have another one which is for the wearables, which is the Apple Watch. This is not an Apple Watch. If it was, pretend it's an Apple Watch. And so they show these people where they're going with the hardware so they know how to write better programs that'll work with this stuff. So it's a big deal for Apple as a company. It doesn't seem like that big of a deal for us, but do you really want to be using programs in 2 years by people that didn't go to the workshops? I think not. I think you want people that actually went to the workshops.
One more thing though.
Yes, sir.
They have a new VPN-like feature that they're adding that you get for free if you're already using iCloud. And It's gonna work in Safari, and it does work in some other areas, but it's really cool the way they did this. It's a like VPN plus, so it's really cool. Really cool.
So it's not Onion, it's a true VPN.
It's a little bit beyond the VPN. It uses two, it's more like Tor, but it's really cool.
Okay, because
I'll
Tor is
send you an
based on Onion.
Yeah, but it's a little different. But
Okay.
It's cool.
I thought the fact that they were going to allow people to code on iPads was a pretty significant
Yeah, you can
thing.
write code on the iPad. It's really cool.
Well, what's happening more and more is they're merging the devices together in terms of commonality of programs and commonality of interface, what buttons you see to press, so that if you're on this device, you know what to do because you have one of these. And the other thing is that sidecar feature, more and more the tablets are being viewed as an auxiliary device to the other stuff. So, you know, whether you're using this device or that device to access the computing power, you really don't care. So yeah, that's, I think they're going in a really good direction. They are continuing development of their new processors, and there's some special arrangement that they've reached with ARM, the company that owns the ARM technology that's used in Microsoft Surface tablets and the iPhone. It's a kind of processor. And with that, ARM will be acting as a clearinghouse for manufacturing techniques, which means that Apple will be able to say to a chip fabber, those are the people that make the chips with all the circuitry and everything that's in them, they'll be able to go to a chip fabber that they never worked with before, and they'll already know what the common manufacturing techniques are that are required for their particular thing. So we're moving from an era where Intel made the chips and said, this is what we got, what do you want to use it in, to where the company that's making the computer will actually design their own chips, have somebody else make them, okay? And so they have more control over how it works with their hardware. So they can customize the chip, the CPU for their stuff and not for somebody else. Okay, I can't think of any other major news items. Anybody else got anything? Going once, going twice, going three times? Okay, we're done with news. For sale and wanted. I brought in some Ethernet cables today. Shauna Collins already has them. After the summer break, I'll bring some more cables in of various types. If people are interested, they need a cable, I'll have a bunch for them to pull from. Dan, tell them what you got.
What's sitting here is a 22-inch TV, but it also will function as a monitor. Comes with a remote, and looking for 25 bucks.
Okay. And the other stuff in the box?
In the waterproof case is the 11-inch iPad Pro, and then I'm still looking for a buyer on my 12-inch iPad.
Okay, so he has two iPad Pros and he has a
22-inch.
22-inch HDMI TV that also is a really good computer monitor. So that's Dan Wyckoff. So if you're not here, you're on Zoom, you're interested in any of these things, let Dan Wyckoff know. All right, anybody else got anything else for sale, for wanted? They're looking for stuff? Okay. Before we go to help desk, I'm just going to throw in what I do when I get bored. Okay, I have a basement of old equipment because I don't recycle it as quickly as I should, and people bring me more stuff. My rule is, as one comes in, one has to go out. But there's still sort of a reservoir of old stuff. Well, one of the things I had was an original first generation Apple TV, the one that had either a 40 or 160, had a hard drive in it, and they would run hot enough that you could cook on them. Anyway, I took one of those, which is basically useless nowadays. It used to run a special version of Mac OS, a special version of Tiger. If you remember, Panther, Jaguar, Tiger, all that stuff, way back last century. And I blew it away, and I put a Linux distribution, which is a media center oriented distribution called OSMC on it, that runs a program called Kodi. So you end up with a media center, and you can have your movies on this box, and you can, they'll serve it out to other devices, etc. And what I learned was that after all of that wonderful stuff I did, it was still so slow that it really wasn't usable, because it was made in the day when most people had their movies on DVDs, and they had their music on low-size MP3s, and if you're doing lossless music on it, or you're doing Blu-ray on it, it's too slow, can't handle the data. So anyway, so that's what I do when I get bored. All right, so we're going to move to help desk. Anybody have anything they want to bring up? You're monitoring the Zoom channel?
It's going to be tricky, but that's what we're going to do.
Okay,
Okay, George has got one.
okay.
Go ahead, George. I'm going to try to relay this.
YouTube or some of these other places that have a little video that you can watch, a video clip. Well, several of these clips, you see a black screen.
Go ahead, George. Continue.
Okay.
So YouTube, you're talking about YouTube and a black screen.
Yeah, in other words, I'm expecting a video clip, and instead I just get a black rectangle, and the progress bar is down there, but it doesn't play. Even if you can find a little triangle to click on, you can't. If you move the little thing on the progress bar, you can see you can go past some of the images, but it just doesn't play.
Sierra on his Mac.
Sierra on his Mac, so he's using...
But it's black. If he scrubs it, he can get a few images here and there, but it's black most of the time.
Is he using Sierra as his web browser?
Safari?
Safari, I'm sorry.
Safari.
Yeah, use Google Chrome.
He said try Google Chrome.
I'm guessing he's on an older version of Safari that doesn't...
Yeah, maybe because of an old version.
Okay, I've got validation. Shauna's nodding her head. Okay, now we're going to take one from in here. Anybody here have a problem?
I still experience in my Mac going to the stamp, pulling up my email.
Okay,
It's almost anymore, it's instantaneous.
okay,
It shows, here's your inbox.
okay. We did this, what, 2 years ago?
Just prior to the pandemic
Okay.
setting
2
in,
years
taking root.
ago, the issue that we resolved and then it came back,
Correct.
and then we resolved it and then it came back, has to do with the file structure that you've got for your emails. So you have this folder structure where you're sorting your emails into all these different folders.
True.
Okay. And it's a Google Gmail account, if I remember correctly. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Okay. So that means you've got the Apple Mail client, probably on an older version of Apple's operating system, talking to a Google Gmail server.
It's on El Capitan.
It's on it's on El Capitan. And so what's happening is that version of the Apple Mail program is not being treated with respect by the Google email servers.
Kicked off.
Right. So the quick workaround is to use a web browser to connect to your Google Mail.
I do. I go through Chrome.
Okay.
That
The actual fix is to upgrade the machine to a newer version of Mac OS, and with that comes a newer version of the Mail program. Think about it.
Apple did do some major changes in the mail area to work with Chrome, I
Yeah.
don't work with Gmail.
May I work with you to do that?
Absolutely. I've got all my shots now. I've got shots I didn't even know I needed.
I'll be the carrier of the computer like I was before.
No, I'll come up, you can, you know,
Okay,
okay. You're still married, right? You still got a nice home situation?
absolutely.
Okay, I'll come up, say hi to your wife,
Okay,
you know,
and-
she'll
and
fix the
then-
sandwiches or beer or something.
How about Spanish wine?
Yeah, that's good.
The other thing is.
Wait, is this from your trip from like 2 years ago?
Oh, no, we go hunting Spanish wine all over this.
Oh, okay.
The other thing is, it may be a very simple fix.
Yeah,
The way it works now, I pull up Chrome
yep,
and I get into my Gmail.
yep,
You're into Gmail, I'm on somebody's web address, I'm into somebody's account, my account someplace.
Mhm.
I don't spend a lot of time on the computer, so they say, well, we're gonna send you to your email address a 6-digit code that you need to put in to ensure that you are the right person so that we can proceed. Is there a way to get both, have a web address up on Chrome and at the same time have your email up on Chrome? Because I found that
yes, you can have more than one window open.
I need to master that
Okay,
capability.
okay,
Maybe it's below all these people here, but I just,
okay.
I-
And
I-
I'm
now-
assuming you're still, cell phone, you're still using the older style cell phone at this point? Or do you have an iPhone now?
don't have an iPhone.
But you have an Android maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, because we could have them send that code to your phone, and then, you know, you got the phone here and the other here. There's a couple different ways to do it.
But most of the time, they said they have an email address on record and they send it to your email address.
Yeah, but you can also add a phone number, and they will text you. So, all good stuff. Okay,
Please, you
Okay.
you help me out tremendously.
okay. It's the whole purpose of this. We'll go to Chuck.
Talking about Chrome on Big Sur, well, I had a case where it was saying I needed to have Java activated or allowed to get into the website or whatever. And I checked with Chrome, and Chrome said Java was allowed,
Mm-hmm.
but still I got that message. Is there a place
Did
in
they
Big
try
Sur?
to make you, did they try to get you to download their version of Java to install?
I don't remember that, but you know, just kind of I wanted to know if there was something else in Big Sur that said, we will not accept any Java.
It's more a case of Big Sur saying, we're not going to accept this malware that you're trying to send us, this corrupted. Just because Java is a programming language,
Yeah.
just because something's written in Java doesn't mean that it's benign. Yeah.
Okay.
And some of the strangest websites I notice when I'm using modern web browsers from Firefox and from Google and the Brave browser, et cetera, and Apple Safari, it's amazing to me how many of these websites have got malicious code on them, places that you just wouldn't expect it.
How do you identify malicious code?
I don't try to do that. I let the web browser do it for me. So that's why I use the latest version of the web browsers, because they are now designed to provide you with protection against malicious code.
Like
That
in
is a
my
good
case, it
question.
just said, you know, you can't use this because we won't accept Java. But it didn't really say why
Yeah.
it was rejecting it. But when I went into Chrome, Chrome said I would accept JavaScript. So that's the reason I was asking the question.
So more and more, the web browsers have the code already built into them, so you don't have to have it installed on your computer. The web browser handles all of it. And that's what happened with Flash for quite a while, where Flash was built into the web browsers until it finally became, here's a word for you, deprecated. Deprecated. When software is deprecated, that means that the originator is no longer supporting it, it's time to kick it to the curb, send it to the antique store, don't use it anymore. All right, so did I get you closer to where
I
you
think
want to be?
so. Yeah, I don't know how to get around it, but,
What you want to do is, when you launch Chrome, go to About Google Chrome, the About page for the app. And in that About page, it'll look to see if you're running the latest version, and it'll try and update itself. And that way you can make sure that you're always got the latest version of Chrome, or Firefox, or Brave, or Vivaldi, or Safari, any of those web browsers.
yeah, I always hate to update because something else will break and she won't really go along with it.
Yeah, that's why I only do it to one of them. So like there's one web browser that I'll use for online banking, and I keep it updated to the latest and greatest because I know they're really good with security, that particular organization. And then there's other web browsers that I use for, the fluff is what I refer to it, if I'm gonna play an online game or something.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Going once, going twice? We'll go to Dan and then we'll go to Zoom.
One quick question on what you're talking about. The use a Chrome browser, and then you also mentioned using Safari. Safari is my problem that I could put. I'm thinking maybe I just start using Chrome all the time, or maybe that and something else, or something specialized banking or something.
Okay.
But I was looking through Clean My Mac a little bit and came across a thing called Space Lens. What's that doing exactly?
Okay, so there's a commercial piece of software from a company called Mac called Clean My Mac. It's a piece of software that I've done beta testing for them, and I've used it for at least 10 years. What Space Lens does is it looks at the local storage on that computer and shows you what's using what kind of space. So, for example, I run virtual machines a lot on my computers. And sometimes I forget that I installed Peppermint Linux or I installed Windows 8, and it's sitting there and it's using like 20 gigabytes of space on the computer. But I forgot that it's there. And then I noticed the hard drive's getting sort of a little full, and I'll use something like Space Lens to show me what's there. And sometimes what I'll find is that there's stuff there that I'm not using anymore that I can get rid of. And sometimes I find stuff that I go like, where did that come from? Sometimes it's pictures that people sent me, but they weren't really pictures. They were live pictures or videos. So instead of being a couple megabytes or a couple gigabytes in size, and then I understand why it took so long to download. But that's what you use Space Lens for, to sort of give you a quick overview of what's taking up the most space on your computer. And typically it should be the operating system and your applications folder will typically be the ones that are going to take maybe a quarter. Maybe, it depends on how big the hard drive is, but they're the ones that are going to be taking up most of the space. Videos, music, photos. Photos don't take up that much space, but if you've got a lot of them, they will accumulate. Okay. All right, so let's take one from Zoom.
George wants to talk to somebody that can help him with terminal.
This is Reinhardt.
George.
Well, we got a couple Georges. George Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Mark, you want to help George Reinhardt with terminal?
What does he need to do?
Yeah. Hey, ask George what is he doing?
He can hear you.
Okay, what are you doing, George?
Same old problem. I'm just trying another approach. I'm trying to see a external, it's this thing right here. Can you see it?
He can't see it, but I can see it.
Okay, well, anyway, this is an accessory with my wife's embroidery machine. It's a
Embroidery
US
machine. The
USB.
embroidery machine.
Yeah.
He's trying to make it work.
Terminal's not gonna
It
get it.
only, the company brother
What he needs to do
only
is run
allows
a
it to
Windows
work
operating
on,
system in a virtual
on
machine
Windows.
and run the software from there.
So what he's saying, George, is you need to run Windows in a virtual machine because it's written for Windows and it'll solve all your problems.
Well, not any, that was the original.
Salesman.
But the new theory is I've had it with Windows.
Let's do this. George, what's a good day this week that you and I can have a long conversation?
Oh,
He's thinking.
Okay.
Tuesday, I think, is okay.
I didn't hear you, George. Do it again.
Tuesday. It's coming.
Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay. Tuesday morning or afternoon?
Well, morning's fine if it's not. too-
Morning's fine if it's not too
Yeah, 10-ish.
10-ish.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
All right, done.
Anybody else?
Anybody on Zoom got something?
Okay. My son-in-law was nice enough to give me a little gift.
That's
iPhone
right.
7, iPhone 7 Plus, and y'all may have these, but this is a smart battery case.
Yep, I've seen those.
$24 on Amazon for the 7 Plus. Works very simply. You just slide it in like so. It weighs 6 ounces, so it adds a little bit to your phone and weight.
All right, I'm gonna tell everybody. He was telling everybody about a battery case for his iPhone 7.
Yeah.
They make them for all the phones. But he got it for, what'd you say, 24 bucks?
$24, and
On Amazon.
it's not a
Okay.
battery. It's
Okay,
got,
so I'm gonna go to Derek. Derek, you
Got it. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Derek.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the, I want to get rid of this screen that shows up every time I boot up iMac.
Okay.
That screen says, select the scanners you want to use from this computer. It will also enable scanning from the operation panel for selected scanners. It's always empty, and the dialog box, I have to click the one that says scan from operation panel settings, then I click OK, and that goes away.
Okay.
How do I get rid of
What
this?
I
I don't
think
need
it's
this.
doing is it's trying to share scanners that are connected to your computer to something else. So there's a, I'm running with borrowed equipment that's running a very old operating system, but I think it had, I think I can show you where to go to get that turned off. So as almost always, we go to the upper left-hand corner to our Apple, and then we go to System Preferences. Okay, so we're in System Preferences, and then we're going to go, if I remember correctly, to Sharing. And one of the things in there is this thing here called Scanner Sharing. So you want to have that unchecked. The other one that I usually have unchecked is DVD or CD sharing. So the idea is if you bought a MacBook Air, you discover it doesn't have an optical drive in it. So how do you use an optical drive? Well, somebody else on your network at home has a Mac with an optical drive. They shared their optical drive over the network so that you can use their optical drive from your MacBook Air. I don't recommend that because it gets confusing. Another one that I usually keep turned off is printer sharing. And that's because I only have network printers in my house. I don't try and share a USB printer with somebody else. And I would basically, anything that's in here, I would have turned off. Bluetooth sharing, internet sharing, XGrid, remote Apple event, anything that's in there. Now, let me just back up a second and go through the step again. So, you're on your Mac, you go to the Apple, then you go to where it says System Preferences. That comes up, and you look for what's called sharing. You click on sharing, and you make sure that stuff is unchecked.
Oh, does it show up in a Mac OS High Sierra
Right.
operating system?
It'll be there too.
Thank you.
Okay, and I've done that myself. Okay, all right. So I'm going to say we're done with help desk. And where are we for time here? Just real quick. Okay, we're at 10:30. So the next thing's going to be, unless somebody has anything else they want to add, I'm going to say, why don't we go to raffle? All right, iPhone basic tips. This is sort of to set the scene. I got an iPhone just as all the COVID stuff was starting. I've never had an iPhone before. All these years of running the user group, I never did a presentation on an iPhone. I'd always have somebody else do it because my philosophy has always been if you don't use it, you shouldn't talk about it. Okay? So I always try and work from what's called a practical rather than a theoretical basis. All right, so the iPhone tips quote for seniors, this is just the stuff that I decided I wish I had known when I got the iPhone. And I had the typical, I made phone calls when I didn't mean to make phone calls, and I'd be swiping and tapping, and I'm getting things I never even knew were on the phone, and I just felt like I was not in control. And after I figured some of this stuff out, I thought it'd be a good idea to share that with others. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. All right, so what are we going to cover? We're going to talk about the Apple iPhone User Guide. All right, I know most of you don't read the manuals for the things that you buy, but I think having the Apple iPhone User Guide available to you is going to be immensely helpful. The next set that we'll be doing is visual settings. These are things that I wish I had known when I first was setting up the iPhone so that the stuff that I'd be seeing on the iPhone is easier on what I have to see with, which are old eyes. So we'll be talking about screen brightness, auto lock, text size, bold text, and display zoom. Then we're going to move to swiping gestures. So you're moving with your finger on the screen to do stuff. Well, I use a 2020 iPhone SE, which still has a home button, but on occasion I work with people who have newer models. They have more money than I have. So they've got the bigger ones that have no home button on it. And I quickly learned that if you don't have the home button, you still need to know how to do this. And what they've done is they've added more swipe gestures to replace a home button. So in terms of swipe gestures, we'll be looking at how to swipe to get to the home screen, how to swipe to get your search screen, how to swipe to get your notifications screen, how to swipe to get the control center to come up, how to swipe to get today's view, and how to swipe to get the app switcher. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here, so. Any questions at this point? Everybody's ingested the disclaimer, we're all good, I've lowered expectations, good, now I'll move forward. Okay, Apple iPhone user guide. Have you ever looked at the car manual? You know, you've got an automobile and there's a manual. Those things are like telephone books now. Where do you keep the car manual? Do you put it in your bookcase? Do you put it next to the phone? No, you keep it in the glove box so that when you're on the road, if something you need to look up, not that we ever do, but if you needed to look it up, it'd be there and you could reference it. By the way, one of the things that I really appreciated the last time I bought a car was the car salesman put in the little Post-it note tabs on all the important sections of the car manual ahead of time. Because that thing was, I'm thinking we're getting up around 800 pages. So why not keep the Apple iPhone user guide on your iPhone for the same reason? It's there for a reference. So if you need to figure something out, you can at least go to the reference book, the manual for it. Now, there's two different ways you can do it. You can view the Apple iPhone user guide in Safari. In other words, it's available on the web. You use your Safari app, your web browser on your phone to go to the Apple website, to go to support, and they've got the manual there, and you can look at it online. And that's what some people do, and they'll bookmark it or they'll save it as a icon on the home screen on their phone. But for me, I always seem to be in these places where I've got no cell service and I've got no internet, and I still need to answer a question. So there's another way you can do it, and that is to download it to the Books app. So let's back up for a second. If you're going to use the guide from Safari, you want to go to the web address that's up there, and everybody gets a copy of the presentation, so you'll have that web address. And then, as I said, you can either save it as a shortcut, or what I call a bookmark, or you can save it as a home screen shortcut. Now, if you're going to do it where you actually download it to your phone, so it actually exists on your phone, the book, then you're going to be using the Books app. And that's sort of an orangey icon. So if you're going to download that guide using the Books app, you're going to be going to the Apple Bookstore. And that way, it brings it in and it's on your physical device, so that whether you've got cell service or not, whether you've got internet or not, you have that reference always available to you. To do that, you want to open the Books app, then you want to tap Search, then you want to put in Apple iPhone User Guide, then you want to tap when it comes up and shows you it, you want to make sure that it is the one from Apple and it's the one that's free. And you also want to make sure it's the latest and greatest, or the appropriate one for your phone. And then you're going to tap Get, and then that's going to bring that into your phone. So I'm going to just go to the next screen real quick. So here I've got just a screenshot of, if you're on the bookstore, what it would look like for the Apple iPhone user guide.
How much space does it take up?
I don't know. I don't care. You know, phones have got more storage than, 10 of the old computers I used to have.
Okay.
I can find out.
No, that's.
I'm going to guess it's somewhere in the order of maybe,
She gave you an answer. The lady at the back of the green gave you an answer.
let me go.
On the
Books.
screen, it says 89.3 meg.
How much? Say it again.
89.3 meg.
89 megs. Okay. Small.
Small potatoes.
compared to other stuff nowadays.
Bit of a tape nonetheless.
So it's less than a fifth the size of your Google Chrome web browser. All right, but it's like a 900-page book, and it's table of contents, it's got all this stuff in it. Just now, I don't expect anyone in there with any sanity to actually sit down and read it. What you do is you pick at it. You look for that one thing that you're trying to figure out, and you look at that one section. So use it as a reference. So it's like a dictionary. You don't sit down and read a dictionary. You don't sit down and read an encyclopedia. What you do is you sit down and say, oh, I want to know the meaning of this word, and you look up the one word. Same thing with the Apple User Guide. I want to know how to use Maps a little bit better. Oh, I just look up the section on the Maps app on the iPhone.
What's the user password for the
Apple Access.
Apple Access?
Yes, to get to the link here. Okay, so anyway, now that I've beaten that one into the ground, we're going to move on to visual settings. This is actually the really important stuff. I don't know how many of you have noticed, but as you get older, your eyes don't seem to get any better. Okay, so you probably have noticed people constantly stare at their phones. Well, if you're going to stare at something, you might as well have it where it's not going to hurt your eyes and it's easy to look at. So your eyes will thank you when these visual items are properly adjusted. So again, we're going to be talking about screen brightness, auto lock, text size, bold text, and display zoom. So we're going to go to the first one, adjusting screen brightness. I don't know about you, but it seems like I get out of the car, my phone rings, I need to look at it, and the screen's too dim. Even though it's set to auto adjust, well, there's a quick way that you can change the brightness of your phone. There's a slower way that you can change the brightness on your phone. So the quick way is to open Control Center, then drag the sun slider up for brighter and down for dimmer. I'm going to just go to my next slide real quick. The grayer item that's on, let's see, on the thing on the left, that's the Control Center. And you'll see right under the square block saying not playing, there's two vertical box. One is for sound and one is for brightness. The brightness is the sun one, the sound one is the speaker. You put your finger on the sun, and if you move it up, it gets brighter. If you pull it down, it gets dimmer. And then when you're finished, you tap your home button or swipe, and the Control Center goes away. The slower way to do it, meaning more steps, is you go to Settings on your iPhone, then you go to Display and Brightness, and then once you're in Display and Brightness, there's a slider. So again, I'm going to go to the screen. So the screenshot on the right, we're looking at Display and Brightness. That very first item is brightness. Now, I've scrolled down on it a little bit, so it's not necessarily right at the top. And you just put your finger on that slider, and if you move it to the right, it gets brighter. You move it to the left, it gets dimmer. So now that we've gone into the Settings app, we're going to be doing some more of that. So the next item that I would permanently set is auto lock. So by default, when you've got your iPhone, it's set to automatically auto lock and dim the screen in 2 minutes if it's been sitting idle. Well, apparently I don't move much when I'm staring at my phone because it almost always thinks I'm idle and it suddenly dims. If that setting doesn't do it for you, you can change it. So you can change the amount of time it takes, or you can even turn auto lock off completely. To do it, again, we go to the Settings app. Now the Settings app is that sort of a gray gear thing. Okay. So you go to settings, again, we go to display and brightness, we tap on auto lock, and then we tap the time delay that you want. Now I'm going to go to a screenshot here. Over on the left is display and brightness, how it would look like. You go down to that item underneath night shift, where it says auto lock, right above raise to wake. Well, auto lock is currently set for 1 minute. You tap on that and you get the screen that's on the right. And you've got a choice of 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or never. I don't leave them on never, because if it's on never, it's going to use more energy. Your iPhone's going to burn through the batteries quicker. So normally I'll put it on, because I'm concerned about battery usage, I'll leave it on 1 minute. But 5 minutes, whatever meets your lifestyle, whatever you find to be least aggravating and annoying, that's what you want to use as your setting. Moving right along. Then we've got text size. John Ive, a former Apple employee, this guy's an absolute genius at designing hardware. He's the guy that came up with the beach ball iMac design with those Bolo speakers. I mean, absolutely gorgeous piece of industrial design. Well, around iOS 12 or 13, they had him tweak the fonts and the displays and the icons on the iPhone operating system. And he may be good at hardware design, but I really didn't like what he did with the fonts and the icons. He made the fonts very skinny and very tiny, and he made the icons also sort of a lot smaller than one would expect. So I'm assuming he's got really good eyesight. So those iPhone font styles, not so much. They're too small, they're too skinny. Well, you can change that. You can make that phone easier for you to read. To get a larger size font, again, you go to your settings app, you go to display and brightness, and then you're going to tap on text size, and then you're going to move the slider to the left or the right to change the size of the text. And now I'm going to go to a screenshot. Over on the left, that's what you're going to see when you're in your display and brightness window inside settings. And right underneath raise to wake and right above bold text is text size. So you're going to tap on that and then you get the screen that's on the right. Now it's talking about dynamic type will be adjusted to your preferred reading size below. Not all programs that are written for the iPhone use dynamic type size. It's something that Apple introduced, I believe, in iOS 13. We're now on iOS 14. But they're moving the developers over to using that. And it makes for a better result, because then they can have the same app running on an iPad with a bigger screen or an iPad Pro or a phone, and the app knows what kind of device it's on and it dynamically associates it. In any case, that slider all the way at the bottom, right now it's the button's right in the middle. You put your finger on that. If you want smaller type, you go to the left. If you want larger type, you go to the right. Or to put it another way, if you want smaller type, you put your finger on the little button and you move towards the small a. And if you want bigger type, you put your finger on it and you move towards the large a. So that takes care of the size of the type. But we still have the problem that it's skinny. The typeface that he uses is skinny. It's thin. It has no body to it. It's tough for me to read. So sometimes a larger type size is not enough. It's time to go bold. So again, we're going to be going to our settings app. We're going to go to display and brightness. We're going to tap on bold text. And we're going to just tap that switch so it shows green. So we're turning it on, basically. So looking at the screenshots, on the left, we've got bold text. and that switch is currently turned off. We just tap on that switch, and then it's going to look like it does over here. Displaying brightness, bold text, and it'll typically show green. So that you know it's on. Green, go, green, on. Okay, we're not quite done. So we've taken care of auto lock, dimming the screen when we don't want it to dim. We've taken care of brightness, so we now know how to quickly change the brightness when we need to. We've looked at, got back up here. We've looked at text size, so we've got a bigger size text. We've boldened stuff. Now we're going to do display zoom. Now you're probably going to be thinking, well, what the heck is display zoom? Well, quite simply, it makes the icons bigger. So all of those things on the home screen where they've got smaller little squares, we're going to make those squares a little bit bigger. And that's in the display zoom setting. So we go to settings, we go to display and brightness, we tap on display zoom, and then we tap zoom. So let me go to my screenshots. Display and brightness, night shift, auto lock, raise to wake, text size, bold text, display zoom. Choose a view for iPhone. Zoom shows larger controls, standard shows more content. So we click on that and we get this window, display zoom, standard and zoomed. We either click there if we want them to be smaller, we click there if we want them to be bigger. Okay, so just to recap, these are my visual settings. They're the right settings for me. Just because they're the right settings for me, they may not be the right settings for you. For example, screen brightness. I keep it really low because I tend to be in basements and dark spaces most of the time. Obviously I'm making poor life choices. Anyway, I'm not outside that much, so I keep it low because that's bright enough for when I'm inside and I'm in a controlled environment. Auto lock, I have it set for 1 minute because I don't use my phone that much and I don't stare at it that much. So 1 minute is good, it saves energy. For you, if you're doing a lot of web browsing or reading long emails, maybe 1 minute's too short, maybe 5 minutes is better, maybe even never is better. The thing is, you get to decide that. You have to figure that out. For text size, I'm 1 notch from the right, which means I'm not quite as large as the text can be, but I'm pretty close to it. And for bolding, I've got bold on and I have display zoom on. So that means that I've got a bold, vibrant text on this phone. I can easily see stuff. I can easily read stuff. I'm just a happy camper. So what I'm suggesting to you is that you play with those settings a little bit and find the combination that's best for your eyes. Okay, so now let's move on ahead. Unless there's any other questions. No, we're good? Anybody on Zoom? We're good? Okay. Moving on. Swipe gestures. Okay. I've got an iPhone that has an old style home button at the bottom. The newer ones, the bigger ones, they don't have a home button. They removed it. They have a line at the bottom that's supposed to represent a home button. Anyway, so there's all these swipe gestures that they've added. So I'm just going to go over those because the newer iPhones don't have home buttons. Pretty soon the iPads aren't going to have home buttons. So you might as well learn the swipe gestures now. And hopefully they won't change them on us. Okay, so the first one we're going to do, we've got home screen, search screen, notifications, control center, today view, and app switcher. So we're going to start out with the most important of all, the home screen. if you've got an old style iPhone and you got a button at the bottom, that's how you get to the home screen. You just press that home button, takes you to the home screen. If you've got a newer one and there's no button on the bottom, you're going to swipe up from the bottom edge of the screen to get to your home screen at any time. So no matter what you're in, if you you swipe up from the bottom, get your finger at the very bottom of the iPhone and you're pulling it up, it's going to bring your home screen back. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've been on a phone that doesn't have a home button, and I go to point at something to somebody, and I end up swiping from the bottom, and it goes away. Okay. Well, there's a way to get back to that. But what I'm doing is accessing the home screen. Next one, the search screen. All right. We've already had a comment about how big is an Apple iPad guide, and I said, I don't care because these phones are huge. They've got lots of stuff. I mean, I've seen phones that have got more programs than a desktop computer, and it's got more music, et cetera, et cetera. Well, rather than spending our few remaining moments of life searching by scrolling through looking for stuff, it's a lot better to use the search engines that are built into these things. So to access that search screen, you want to be sort of in the middle of your phone. Now, if you put your finger in the middle and all of a sudden the icons start dancing, that means you touched too long or you were holding too long. You want to just put your finger in the middle and you want to slowly pull down. So it's finger in the middle, pull down, and it'll bring up a search screen. And it'll show you programs that you've used, it'll show you various things that you've looked for before, and you can type into that, tap into the search field, put in what you're looking for, and then hit the return, and chances are it'll come up with some good results. Now remember, it's searching not just your iPhone, but also the internet. So, you know, you can sort of make your searches more generic, if you will. Moving right along, the next one is the notification stream. And I'm missing the part in the presentation, I'm missing some verbiage there. Okay, basically a notification screen. You have all these different programs, you have emails that come in, you have weather programs that, you know, want to alert you that there's a tornado coming, et cetera, et cetera. All these different notifications. And then there's all these websites that want you to be notified whenever they do anything. I usually would say no, because I really don't care what they're doing. To get to your notifications, you're going to put your finger at the top of your iPhone screen, up at the top, and you're going to just slowly pull down. So it's almost like a window shade, you're just pulling down from the top. And then it's going to, in this case, it's telling me I've got some new podcasts to listen to, and that Kathleen Wasenich sent me a text message, and that my wife is not in North Dakota yet. So I have a bunch of different notifications that come up. To get it to go away, let me bring it down again, you just take your finger and you swipe up like that. So it's almost like a window shade, a roller shade. So that's for the notifications screen. The next one is the control center. Now the control center, it's got all sorts of neat little stuff in it. So to get to the control center, quick access, like we did with the brightness in the presentation. To access the control center, you want to swipe down from the top right corner of the screen and hold control, yeah, okay. You swipe down from the top right corner and then touch and hold a control to reveal more options. On the iPhones that still have a home button, you get to your control center by putting your finger down below and pulling up. Now, I'm gonna just back up here for a second. So I'm backing up to where we were adjusting screen brightness because I had a control center up. So in terms of what's there, if I click on that little airplane button, now my iPhone is in airplane mode. That's my Wi-Fi. If the Wi-Fi is green, that means that Wi-Fi is turned on. That's Bluetooth, and that's
Cellular.
set.
Your mobile, cellular.
Yeah, cellular, excuse me, cell. Over here, this is the controlled, if you've got stuff playing, like, you know, music or audiobooks or whatever, podcasts, you can stop them, you can start, you can back them up, all sorts of good stuff. This is your rotate. You can turn auto rotate off. In other words, you can lock your phone in a particular rotation. That's for do not disturb, that's for brightness, that's for sound. And down here, I've added 2 controls. The standards are the flashlight. I don't remember what that one is. Is that the timer? Alarm clock timer? Okay, and that one's a calculator. That's to get to the camera function real quick. And I've added 2 others, a search. No, excuse me, that's magnifier. And the other one is to control Apple TVs. So if I tap that one, my iPhone becomes a remote to control Apple TV. The magnifier one I use all the time because somehow in their wisdom, when they were making the power bricks for the laptops and that, they use a gray type on a white background. And they make it in about a 5-point type. And to try and tell whether something's a 65 or 45 watt power brick is sort of tough. So what I've learned to do is use my iPhone. I flip up from the bottom, I type on magnifier, and then I just come in here and look at that sucker, and I can zoom in and I can read it, and I don't have to go searching for my old style reticles, and I can see right away, what is this? This is an 85 watt MagSafe power adapter. Wow. Now if I try to do that with just my unaided eyes, I'd be squinting. It would hurt. So that's something that we won't cover today, but if you go into settings and you go to Control Center, there's all sorts of nifty little tools in there. I mean, really some neat stuff, like music recognizer. So, you know, it listens to a song and it tells you who it was that wrote it. Yes, sir.
Really, okay, power tip. The little Wi-Fi icon that you saw on the last screen, when you turn that off, what's really powerful about that is it will turn off the Wi-Fi connection that you were connected to for 24 hours. So let's suppose you're at a hotel and you're locked into their Wi-Fi. You don't want to use their Wi-Fi. You want to use the cellular connection. But as soon as you're somewhere else, you want to be back on Wi-Fi. That just temporarily turns off your Wi-Fi connection so you'll reconnect when you're somewhere else within 24 hours. That's really powerful because a lot of people get stuck on Wi-Fi and they want to turn their Wi-Fi off, but then they forget to turn it back on. This does it for you.
Okay, good to know. All right, so we got 2 more that are left, and that's the Today View. And again, I'm missing some text on that. I have a feeling that I pulled the draft rather than the final. I'll send you the revised
I
final.
think the
to
one
send out
she's
to the
got on the
folks.
screen,
Anyway, say again.
I think the one Kathy, does yours look different, Kathy?
Not on this screen.
We're seeing something different on
Okay, so anyway, with the Today View. All right, with the Today View, you're going to be swiping from the left going to the right. And that'll bring up your Today View. And the Today View typically will have any calendar items you've got, your weather, map location, so it's showing me where I am, and then some iPhone tips. It'll show me my battery strength, it's tracking the stock market, and then it's got a special app that I use to maintain my productivity called Things. So that's called the Today view. And to get it to go away, you just undo what you did, which is you put your finger on the right side of your screen and you swipe to the left.
Can't find that.
Which screen did you start from when you went?
What version of iOS is she running? Right here. Just regular screen space. What version of iOS? That's it right there. She's gonna have it edited. It has to the screen.
Okay, that's a search screen.
That's what it is. This is today's
Oh,
screen.
You see,
Instead of having
they have
to
search
enter-
on the Today screen, so search is so important, there's a whole bunch of different ways to get to it.
She can add some things to her
Oh,
screen.
okay.
She doesn't have any limit.
Bill,
Yeah.
how do you get to the today's screen? I lost you.
You want your home screen?
No, today's screen.
You put your finger on the left.
Well, when you start from the control center,
Okay, take your finger, pull control center down.
okay, it doesn't go away.
You want to be pulling up to the right corner to get rid of control center.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're in home screen, I know this is tough to see, you're in home screen, you're going to be putting your finger on the left and pulling it to the right, and that gets you into your Today screen.
Okay, that's the
To
today's.
get it to go away, you undo it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, last one. Okay, last one. App switcher. Okay, now, app switcher, Apple puts it there so that you can quickly switch between different programs that are currently running on your iPhone. So let me get a couple of things going here. All right, for that one, if you've got a iPhone with a home button, you just tap it fast twice. Tap, tap. If you've got one of the newer phones where you don't have a home button, you're going to swipe it up from the bottom edge of the screen. You're going to pause in the center of the screen, and then you're going to lift your finger. Not real intuitive. And what you'll get is a series of screens, each one representing one of the programs that you have running. And as you slip them left and right, you can find the one that you want to be on, and you tap on that program, and now you're in this case, iBooks. If I want to be out of iBooks and I want to be in Notes, I would slide until I get where I am for that program. But there's one thing you want to be careful about, and that is if you're in the app switcher and you pull up, you're going to turn off that program. And that's what I normally use app switcher for, to just turn off all the different programs, to make sure that they're really off. And the reason why I do that is I swim in a sea of computers that don't work and software that doesn't work. So all I see is the stuff that's hoodged up that isn't working right. And I know the quickest way to get a program on an iPhone to start working correctly again is to completely turn it off and then turn it back on. What we used to call a Polish restart, but that's politically incorrect nowadays. And the way you do that is through the app switcher. Okay, and now we're going to go to questions, or I'll go to Chuck first.
My son was trying to do that on his new iPhone, and he fought at it for about half hour or so, just getting upset as could be. And he was swiping too fast.
Yeah. You're swiping slowly up from the bottom edge, so it's almost like you're doing a Tai Chi movement, and then you pause in the center of the screen, and then you lift your finger. I'm sorry, but,
It works better for me if I just do like an inverted J.
Yeah.
If you just go up and like this, you don't have to pause, just boop, and it goes right in, every time.
So you're going up and into the
Up and to the
side.
right, don't pause, just go up and just kind of up and over.
Okay.
And it goes right in every time, it's much faster, and that pause is really strange. But you just simply go up and to the right, and it just pulls it right up.
And when you're an app switcher, you're an app switcher to do what?
I go in to jump to different apps. I got a ton of apps open. I just jump to a different app, and I do that all the time.
Phyllis has a question.
Yes.
Phyllis on Zoom.
Oh, Phyllis, hang on.
Phyllis Baker? Okay.
Yes, go ahead. I was away. Sorry. Hang on. She said when she's outside and the sun shines real bright, and she's got it in the camera mode, and she's looking at the camera, she gets a bunch of washout because of all the sun. She got what the best setting is for that. And I don't have a favorite setting. I just play with it until I get it to
Yeah.
work.
I mean, it's
really tough.
Yeah, because what I found is that sometimes it can be what's supposed to be a cloudy day, but I'll get that glisten, that flare off of an object, and you go, what? It's because it's seeing other light parts of the spectrum than I'm normally seeing, and the phone is showing it to me.
And the angle of incidence of all that light is just, you can't control it.
Yeah, I will tell you this, Phyllis. Over time, Apple keeps adjusting their phone and making it better. So as you get newer phones later on, you're going to find that it does improve. But that's just one that you just have to play with until you find the best thing you can find. I can't shoot straight into the sun and get a decent shot sometimes. But it's gotten better. My newer phone works a lot better than my iPhone 8 did. So I think over time you'll find, but it's not worth going and buying a new phone to do that.
Something that I'll just throw in, and that is sometimes I'll use the magnifier to take a picture rather than the camera app, because the magnifier will let me select brightness and contrast and sepia tone or whatever. I can play with all those different filters, because sometimes I'm usually using the magnifier in not optimum conditions, and I can even turn the flashlight on from the magnifier app and get the combination of light where I can finally capture that serial number that's on the back of that TV.
Yeah. There's another thing you might try, Phyllis. When you're looking at your camera, if you push and hold on the screen, it'll go to auto exposure and autofocus lock. So point at some place that's a little more shady, do that lock, and then move your camera back over the other thing, and then you can adjust the focus, and that sometimes will solve that problem. But you'll have to play with that just to see how it works for you. You'll see it's moved. It'll at the top of the screen there'll be a little yellow bar that'll say autofocus. It'll say AF/AE lock. And when it's locked like that, it's not adjusting the focus and the exposure. So you can adjust it when you're a little more shaded, then move it over and see if that helps you.
Okay, we got anybody else on Zoom?
Any other Zoom questions?
Otherwise, we'll go to John.
I don't see any.
Okay, we'll go to John.
Okay, I don't know if this is the case, you guys might be able to tell me better, but on the old iPhones, they used to tell you to close your applications if you had too many open, because your phone would run slower.
That's changed.
Yeah, on the new ones, I think they've changed that. It
It wasn't
doesn't
so much
matter.
it wasn't so much the change in the phones, it was they upgraded the operating system. So now what they say is if you ask Craig Federici about that, he would tell you you're better off to leave them alone, because that closing them and things, they'll come up faster and they don't use as much energy actually just to reopen them. So I never close any. My wife closes everything all the time, but I never close anything.
The closing stuff was from the very first
Real
iPhone,
early.
before they went to custom ARM processors for these phones.
Yeah.
These things, this little thing has
Very
got
efficient.
more computing power than my favorite laptop has.
It's true.
Well, how do you, I was just clearing out the, I shouldn't have done it, I guess now.
Well,
All
it
the
doesn't
programs
hurt.
that I've been, it doesn't hurt, but
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many programs I had, and it was going back several
But
weeks.
it don't hurt to leave them open. I never close anything.
But how do you close it if you wanted to close
Do you want to do it? Go ahead.
You go to the app switcher. So in other words, does your phone have a home button?
yeah,
Double tap that home, be on the, well, first, let me get out of camera here. You want to be on your home screen, double tap the home button,
yeah,
and you'll get where these programs are
Yeah.
showing up. Think of them like a deck of cards, and what you're doing is you're just
Yeah, I-
discarding
I have
and
discarded
that's
all
how
of
you
them.
turn them off.
That's how you
That's
close it.
the only way to turn them off?
Yeah.
That's the only way.
Oh,
Or
okay.
reset it.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, I need to go to Dan, and then I need to go to Kathy.
On the, in the
Yeah.
magnifying,
Hmm?
in the magnifier, how's the person recognition work? Does it recognize people that are in your photos album, or?
You're talking about the new feature that they're talking about, or the?
No, it's under on the magnifier, there's a people detection.
Yeah, what it's doing is, the magnifier app is talking to photos, which has got that facial recognition stuff built into it.
Yeah. So they have to be in your photos and
Right.
defined
Right.
to be recognized.
Right, unless, of course, you're a government agency, in which case they're accessing an online database that's got, everybody's picture.
Yeah.
No, this is not paranoia. Customs has been using it now for 10 years. And it's pretty good results with it.
If you get global entry, that's one of the things that they take right off the bat.
I do. I got that. Yeah.
Is your biometrics.
Okay, did I need to go to Kathy? No, I'll go to Dan.
Just the magnifier, is that something from the App Store, or?
What you would do is if you want to, you're running iOS 14?
I think so.
Okay, so what you want to do is go to settings.
Okay.
We've been in there a lot. And then you want to scroll down until you see Control Center. And you're going to tap on that. At the top of it, it's showing what controls you've got. So I've got flashlight, timer, calculator, camera, magnifier, Apple TV remote. Underneath are more controls you can turn on. You can turn on the alarm, you can do a code scanner, with the two-dimensional barcodes. There's another one for connecting with hearing aids, a low power mode, music recognition, what is that song? You tap it and let it listen, it tells you what it is. Sound recognition, there's a stopwatch, text size, voice memos, and a wallet. And there's others that they're working on. But it's like, I now understand why there's a 900-page manual for it. Yes, Kathy?
Bill Howe on Zoom has raised his hand.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Would you please?
Go ahead, Bill. Go ahead, Bill. I lost you. Oh,
I could have zoomed from my
How do I
phone.
go back to the page?
All right.
We lost him?
Wait, no, you already covered it.
Okay,
A
Okay.
question,
we got one more.
you use magnifier.
Yep.
When do you have to do that? I was just in email pages, and I can just use the two fingers to make it big or small, so why?
That's a zoom function that's built into the phone. The magnifier I was talking about is a control center widget It's a special little application just for taking pictures of stuff and zooming in and doing, you know. Because I end up reading a lot of labels that are on RAM and barcodes, and it's just so much easier if I can, instead of getting my barcode reader out with the USB cable and, you know, going beep, to just use my iPhone and capture the code that way, the barcode that way, and have it look it up on the internet and tell me, you know, is that stick of RAM PC 4200 EEC, or is it PC 5300 non-EEC or ECC? Yeah, you know, the RAM specifications, some devil, no angel made them up, some devil made them up. They're just so many different variations, and you always got to get just the right RAM for that desktop or that laptop. And the iPhone has just made it so much easier.
Bill House got his hands up.
Okay, well,
Go ahead, Bill. He said you may want to talk about how to update your apps on your phone.
well, the easiest way to update your apps is to use the App Store. So the App Store, and this is going to be the last one because we're running a little long on time. The App Store is usually on the first screen of your home screen, and it's sort of a blue, and it's a letter A, and underneath it says App Store. You tap on that, and then you'll get where the featured things, it's like going to Kroger, and they hand you the flyer, this is what we're talking today. Ignore that. Tap on the little picture of yourself, and then you're in your stuff, and then you just go up and it'll show you if there's things to be updated, and you can choose to update one at a time or update them all at a time, you know, if you got a whole bunch of them. So I'm going to say I'm officially done with the presentation. Again, I hope I lowered expectations. We had a bunch of little bumps in the road, and that I'm using borrowed equipment in that. But the thing to take away from it is you paid good money for that iPhone. Okay? If you change those visual settings, you'll notice immediately that it's easier for you to see stuff. And that always has a calming effect on me. And if you try some of those swipe settings, I think you'll get less, you'll feel like you're in control of it. I mean, there's nothing that drives me crazier than feeling I'm not in control, and I just butt called somebody, and I try to turn off the phone, and somehow I got my camera turned on, and I'm going like, oh, what's the only thing is to turn it off? No, you hit your home button, double tap it to get to the app switcher, and you can quickly turn off the programs that, you know, or you can just switch to them one at a time, and you're in control again. So with that said, I'm done with the presentation. The only other thing that I have for the membership is a reminder that we're taking a break during July and August. We will not be meeting in person during July and August. And to start thinking about what we should be doing starting next year in terms of presentations, workshops. We just had, you know, a long time out because we were bad, and they put us on time out. And I think we deserve to have, you know, some fun going forward for the next year or so. Maybe we won't do serious stuff, but, you know, I want to go where you folks want to go. So you need to give me some advice.